My name is Andrea Guerra. I'm speaking as a co-chair of 350 Palo Alto, but also on behalf of a coalition of local groups, including leading environmental organizations, passionate student groups, worship groups, physicians, and parents. All of us are urging the Palo Alto City Council to adopt a date for ending the flow of natural gas. Is my slides show up at the moment? Okay, I'll give that 1 minute. Meanwhile, I do have a number of supporters here tonight. I'm going to ask them to briefly stand and identify themselves. Thank you. Next slide, please. The organizations that have signed on to our request are Benisol Solar, Carbon Free Palo Alto, Climate Action California, First Presbyterian Palo Alto Cool Planet Group, Fossil Free Building Silicon Valley, Gun High School Green Team, Menlo Spark, Mothers Out Front Silicon Valley, Palo Alto Student Climate Coalition, Project Green Home, San Francisco Bay Physicians for Social Responsibility, Sunrise Silicon Valley, Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto Green Sanctuary Committee, 350 Bay Area, 350 Silicon Valley, and 350 Palo Alto. Next slide, please. Last year, as you know, Palo Alto formally adopted their 80 by 30 plan. That is our plan to reduce greenhouse gases 80% by the year 2030. We've also named climate a top priority again for the year 2023. Now it's time to make our ambitious climate pledges a reality. When we were formulating 80 by 30, Palo Alto asked the staff for a plan to make that happen. Next slide, please. These were the staff findings. 35% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from natural gas. That makes it second only to transportation for emissions. To reach our 80 by 30 goal, staff found we need to electrify nearly all single-family households plus commercial HVAC systems. And I just want to point out that this was not one path they found to 80 by 30. It was the only path to 80 by 30. Next slide, please. Why is natural gas a problem? It is largely methane, which is a greenhouse gas that has 80 times the potency of CO2 during its first 2 decades in the atmosphere. It's responsible for about 30% of the warming we've seen on the planet so far. This powerful greenhouse gas also has a short half-life, and that makes it an opportunity for fast climate action. Next slide, please. We're not asking council for a specific shutoff date, but we think it's important to review what the scientists are telling us. Last year, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change told us that by the year 2030, our emissions trajectory will be cast, determining this century's climate outcome. That panel also found that mitigation efforts that happen after 2030 are unlikely to prevent us from exceeding the critical 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature rise. And just as a reminder, that's the temperature at which we have an increased risk of tipping points that can cause cascading and irreversible planetary damage. Next slide, please. So what does our greenhouse gas trajectory look like right now? Not great. The latest figures we have are for 2021. They showed the largest methane increase ever recorded, plus the highest ever annual level of CO2. We have a very long way to go in a short window. Next window. Next slide. We have a massive public awareness problem here in Palo Alto. We know that our residents want climate action. They have consistently re-elected members who crafted our climate goals, and they recently elected new outspoken advocates for climate. They are switching to EVs in record numbers. However, when we go out in the community and we talk to people, there is very little awareness that their home gas appliances have an impact on the climate. Next slide, please. A sunset date will fast-track public awareness about the climate and health impacts of methane. It will also set a clear timeline so that residents and utilities can plan ahead. We need to educate residents. We need to ease the path. And importantly, we have to create conditions that will make our target an inevitability. We know that voluntary electrification will not get us to 80 by 30. Technology adoption curves consistently show that 20 to 25% of people will be very late and or resistant to making a switch. And that is a luxury of time that we don't have. Next slide, please. We'd like to ask the council to engage in some moonshot thinking. We know where we need to go, but we don't know exactly how we're going to get there yet. However, Silicon Valley is a national center of innovation. We need to tap into the extraordinary talent in our community, in our area universities, and in our own city staff to develop a technical and financial roadmap to our sunset date. We're asking council to direct staff to begin that process this year. Next slide, please. Yes, there are roadblocks to electrification, but they are not insurmountable. We need to remove the financial burden, but we have an excellent model in our new heat pump water heater program that offers fast permitting, discounts, plus no interest financing. We need to continue to work with the state to ensure that we have the electrification workforce we need. And I want to thank the council members who have already begun that process. We need to make sure our grid is ready. Residential upgrades are projected to be finished by 2030, but we have to make sure that we adequately fund this effort. In the meantime, we need to press ahead. We know that the grid is ready now for citywide water heater conversions, and some neighborhoods are ready for full electrification. Finally, we have to ease resident worries about blackouts. That means promoting home solar and educating residents about bidirectional EV chargers or battery backup systems for their homes. Next slide. Right now, we have a unique window of opportunity with the Federal Inflation Reduction Act. This includes billions of dollars to support electrification. Incentives are available for electric appliances plus upgrading wiring, and they're good through 2031. We're also well aligned with what's happening at the state level. The CA Air Resource Board proposal that was the recent proposal would end the sale of gas-powered furnaces and water heaters starting in the year 2030. The Bay Area Air Quality Management District is considering a zero emission standard that could put our region on an even faster timeline. Next slide, please. Finally, I would like to emphasize that asking for a sunset date is not about taking away the gas. It's about transitioning to the sustainable energy source of the future. Just as EVs are the future of cars, electric homes are the future. We want the transition to be well-planned and equitable. Mankind has transitioned many times before. We used to heat and cook with wood fire and coal. These transitions have always been step forwards, and electrified homes are the next step forward. We all want a future with clean, healthy, abundant energy and efficient appliances. We believe that presented with the facts and a robust plan, the community will ultimately accept a sunset date and support it. In addition to all of the signatories, 350 stands ready to provide all of the public education assistance that we can. Finally, this council, which has shown an extraordinary dedication to climate, we believe is the one to make the tough calls and get the job done. Thank you very much.